Right now, let's go back to your calls. John in Minnesota, quick question or comment for Joseph Farah.
Yes, I was calling in to tell a little story, and also how the FEMA camps, how they plan to fill them. I was a FEMA inspector, still listed as one, and after what I saw last year and what I was threatened with, I decided not to go out for them anymore. I called this in back in March or April. I called in to Sean Hannity's show, and they vetted me for 2 hours, checked me out, said that they were going to make a whole show around it and possibly bring me in to be on the TV show as well. The following week, they never called me back, and I called back into the show and talked to the producer. I had her private line, and she said that Sean had decided not to follow this story, that it just wasn't something that they were going to do. All
right, well, I'm probably going to have to put you on hold because Joseph Farah's got to leave here in about 4 minutes, but give us a brief encapsulation, and we'll come back to you after the break.
Okay. I got stationed in Philadelphia and was inspecting homes that were basically crack houses with decades of dilapidation, and I found children living in the squalor and, with drug deals and drug use going on right in front of them, and called it in, and then they told me to mind my own business.
No. If you got a healthy baby, if the bow doesn't match their dress, the CPS will take them because they've got folks that want the kid. If the child is being eaten by rats, literally they won't help them if it's a good drug dealing operation to launder some money for the banks. Joseph Farah, any comments on what this caller's talking about?
No, I think he picked the wrong show to take his story to. I think he should have taken it to the Alex Jones show. You guys ought to exchange numbers. I want to hear more.
No, exactly. I'm going to put you on hold, sir. You can send us your stuff. We'll vet it, and then we'll get you on. But I'll come back and have you tell your story just because it matches from what I know. We just in the last segment took a call from John in Minnesota who was talking about FEMA going in, and I know they're checking floodplains and also architecture in cities in certain areas. He's saying he would just see people living in crack houses, children living like animals. I've probably seen the story he's talking about. You learn how to gauge how a caller sounds, and then plus the info they give you, you pretty much automatically know if they're for real or not. But I don't ever go off my gut, even though my gut's never wrong. It's like, okay, the gut says the guy's telling the truth, plus you've got info to back it up. Now send me your information. We'll have you on. But, so many times we have whistleblowers on, and later they go, hey, can you take that down? They're coming after me. And so I just also want to tell people something. The Eye of Sauron is on this show. The Eye of the New World Order is fully aware of what we're doing. And I say, good, put me on your list, come after me. Because I know how evil you are. And letting this type of evil come in is what is hurting the little children. The CPS was set up 100 years ago, roughly. We were going to the caller. As race eugenics courts or race hygiene courts. You may have heard of that, but only from the Nazis. That's because the media will talk about that. The Nazis got it from the United States and England. England developed it. The U.S. perfected it. The Germans blew its good name. Had a Freudian slip. Its bad name, but they gave it its bad name because it deserves one. I was about to say it's blew its bad name, but I couldn't say that. I said good. Point is, they were pushing it as a great thing until Hitler gave it a bad name because it deserved one. And I've seen this with the foster parents, not all of them. There's some good Christian families out there, but predominantly the warehousers of kids. I have seen it with the warehousing homes. They're all state certified, folks, and you can kill kids in these things, and they don't lose their licenses. I've seen cases where you've got to have 3 kids die in a small home in a year. There was one in Oklahoma, a case, and they had the CPS director go, children will die. That's just the way it is. That was the headline on the article. Children will die. Because in 1 week, 2 had died, then 1 had died the month before. They were letting, like, 2-year-olds swim alone at the CPS home and had a pool in the back. It was a taken-over old hotel. The point is, where do you think the pedophiles go? Where do you think the abusers go? Where do you think they go to be in the government envelope where they're the authority, so they're above reproach and they wouldn't do anything wrong? Folks, that's, in history, the most dangerous thing is the government. So the caller, I don't know what his story is yet. I only heard about a minute of it because we had to go to break. He brought up how he went to the media, tried to get this out. They wouldn't cover it. And how he was a FEMA inspector and the nightmare stuff he saw in the inner cities. And yes, if it is, because that's what you can get $500,000 for to the adoption agencies. If it's a black-haired, blue-eyed, or green-eyed person, they'll kill parents for them. That's, for whatever reason, I've talked to the top people involved exposing this. One of them was a state senator they murdered when she had just called me a week before and said, I've got total proof of the list, the roundups, how they're picking kids out. I'm coming on your show next week. Well, they killed her a couple days later, blew her and her husband's head off. But side issue, she had the quotas, the list, all of it. I don't know where his story's going. He just said he was in FEMA. He'd go in and see these crack houses, and they wouldn't do anything. Look, if it's a blonde-haired, blue-eyed baby, and you go to have your child for the first time at the hospital, they'll make it up and say there's marijuana in your blood and take your kid. And if you try to fight back, the cops will gun you down, okay? That's the way it works. In America, they do what they're told. If you're a black baby or a Hispanic baby, they can drag those kids along behind their car, and no one's going to get in trouble. I mean, if it's Hispanic or blacks, they may throw them in jail for it. But if it's black kids in foster care, you might as well put them in a wood chipper. Before the media spins that, I'm not saying put them in a wood chipper. I'm illustrating how horribly they're treated. The media loves to take stuff out of context of what I say, but people know they do that, so it's fine. But anyway, sir, I'm going to give you the floor for about 4 or 5 minutes. We're going to go to break, take a few more calls for those that have been holding. Then I've got a news blitz and play these special reports. You've got the floor. Tell us why you were inspecting, what you did at FEMA, why you left, and then we'll vet your information and do a full report for you. And we're going to give you, I'm going to give your number to Rob Dew to call you. Go ahead.
All right. I was a disaster inspector. So just a warning for all the listeners, especially those in the Northeast right now, do not take the FEMA money. There's a clause that you sign on the tablet at the beginning. The print is so fine that it's illegible. But I read it, and basically it says that you owe this money back, and the federal government can seize your house and property if it's not paid back, if you're able to pay it back. Most people aren't, so they'll end up seizing the property. When that time period is, I cannot say.
And I'll back you up. That's why they're now saying they're not going to let most of New Jersey and New York, the mom-and-pop motels and hotels, aren't going to be allowed to rebuild for environmental reasons, but the government will authorize big companies to come in. So this is how they take over. Go ahead.
Okay, so I was stationed in New Jersey, and FEMA had run out of money earlier in the year because of the tornadoes in Alabama and Joplin, and then some of the flooding up in North Dakota. So they went to Congress and asked for more money. When Congress gave FEMA the amount of money, I'm not sure what it was, it might have been like $7 billion. And this is when, Irene and Lee hit up in the Northeast last year, towards the end of the year, just like Sandy did this year. Irene and Lee didn't cause as much damage. It was a lot of flooding, a lot of rain. Now, the people I was helping out in New Jersey last year were legitimately, they couldn't do anything, and insurance wasn't going to pay because it was flood. And it was also man-made because they released a dam that flooded these towns. I
understand. I remember that. So tell people what you found and what the scandal is.
Okay, so they sent that when FEMA gave them that, or they got the money from Congress, Congress also passed a law granting power to the executive branch, the president, that he could claim any area, a natural disaster area, without the governor of that state asking for federal assistance.
I saw that in the news as well, yes.
The very next day, I was out of New Jersey and in Philadelphia giving crack houses, crackheads, tens of thousands of dollars for decades of dilapidation. tens of thousands, okay? They got 1 inch of rain in Philadelphia from those 2 storms. 1 inch. We were replacing roofs, remodeling houses, but we were just giving them money. Those money was probably being smoked up in crack pipes. That's 75% of the houses that I went into were crack houses.
Unbelievable. So what type of stuff were you seeing when you went in these houses?
Filth, knee deep, spent condoms, I'm sorry, but this is, crack pipes laying around, hypodermic needles, whiskey, and beer bottles. So the first one that I went to, I actually had a gun pulled on me outside, and the guy told him to get away, that I was there for him, and he said he was a block captain, and they were going to listen to him. So I went in. It was the 3-story row house. Went in, it looked like somebody had hit a hornet's nest. That's how many flies were in this place. I get up to the 3rd level and realize that there's kids living in this filth. 3 floors of crack smoking and crack dealing going on right in front of me. I called it in for the kids, and they told me to mind my own business.
All right, listen, I'm going to put you on hold. I got to give you more time. Stay there, yeah. I've seen this literally myself on investigations. But when your kid at school falls and breaks their arm, they'll still try to take them because you're healthy. There's some fat pedophile wants to get your kid. And they shop. There's pedophiles want a 5-year-old, they're going to get one. They want a newborn, they're going to get one. Or they just got well-meaning families that get them. The CPS is there to prey on good families.
Is it not, my king, time to spring the trap?
No, we must desecrate the soul and the flesh of the Creator's creation.
The chain of life broken forever. A monument to our beauty.
Okay, John in Minnesota, finishing up your story. I'm going to have Rob do. John Harmon up there is going to IM him your number, and we're going to get in touch with you. You can send us your documentation, and then we will get you on air via video, Skype, or something next week if you want to use your identity or not. So, but everything you're saying I already know to be true. So basically, you're told just give a bunch of money to the crack house areas. And again, I started out on Access Television 17 years ago, and it was right in an area of East Austin that had the guys coming out selling the crack. I was at a gas station last week, and there was a guy parked in a car with cars pulling up, selling him some kind of white powder in little baggies. And I knew not to call the cops. Nothing was going to happen. I mean, if they did, I'd probably get arrested for it or something. Besides, the government ships most of it in to begin with, unless it's methamphetamine that they're cooking up. Private groups cook that up. That's why the government really hates that so much. They don't get as big a cut because it's more grassroots. Certainly bad for you as well. But I also, growing up in Dallas, Texas, they wouldn't sell us beer in Rockwall where I lived, underage people. And I routinely, almost every weekend, when I'd ride in with older kids, because I was cool when I was 12, 13, 14, 15. I got to hang out with the folks that are a few years older than me. Can't believe how much danger I was in. We would drive to South Dallas in the crack neighborhoods, and right next to the liquor stores, there would be crack houses right there. And to be honest, a couple times, they would not sell us alcohol. And when I was like 14, I was dumb enough. They said, hey, Alex, you and Chris or whatever, you go over there and they'll sell it to you there. And sure enough, they did. But let me tell you, once or twice walking in one of those, I knew, and I wasn't there again to get drugs. I was there to get, 12-pack of beer. But because the crack houses sell alcohol as well, for those that don't know. It's a one-stop shop. But, I mean, you walk into these things, and there's a guy with a gun on the table, marijuana, cocaine, whatever. You want alcohol, you little such and such, you little racial slur? Bam, give me the money. Boom, you're out. And a cop drives right by when you come out. So I guess there I am telling you that story. But right down here, right off East 11th, I want to do that because I still drive down there sometimes. They're still there. I want to go. I'll do it. I won't tell the crew to do it. I want to go, and I want to go walk into crack houses. And then I'll call the police from the crack house. I mean, they know where they are. It's a joke. I'm sorry. They allow these districts to operate to sell everybody the drugs. Okay? I mean, that's how this works. The prostitutes, all of it. Going back to the caller, quickly finishing your story. So you said something about this. What happened?
You know, they kept telling me to mind my own business, and they said that they, just send me home. Well, we don't have much money, so I had to stay out in the field. 3 days later, my first appointment was at a house, and they didn't answer the door, left a note. She called up later in the afternoon just screaming at me that I had never showed up. Well, I could tell by the slur in her voice that she was already high, and she was probably sleeping off her ride the evening before. So I got there. I showed up late in the afternoon. It was actually getting close to dark, and we weren't supposed to be out at that time anyway. She was listed by herself as the owner and registered of getting the FEMA money and owner of the house. And there were 4 children listed. Now, everybody listed, all the children are in the computer system. They show up. So I go in the house, and dog feces, ceilings caving in, walls cracked and caving in, just horrible conditions. And the 4 kids that are listed on the computer are running around the house. Well, there was another girl there, older, one of her friends, was staring me down like I was a cop and left right then. We were going through the inspection, and I could hear a baby crying upstairs, and she kept screaming, "Shut up, baby, shut up." And I mean screaming, I don't want to scream like she did. And I could just hear the baby crying upstairs. But it wasn't listed on the computer, so I figured it was the other girl's baby. So we finally go upstairs, and I can hear the babies up in the front room, and she's continuing to scream, "Shut up, baby," not checking on it or anything. And there were 4 rooms upstairs. That was the last one I was inspecting because that's the flow of the way it was going. We open up the door, and there's the baby laying on the floor.
Tell what, stay there. We got to finish this after the break. Yeah, unbelievable. Unbelievable. We're going to hear what happened. And then, tries to get help. Ain't coming. But you yell at your 2-year-old daughter in front of people at the Yuppie Club, a fat pedophile is going to have your child that night. Okay, so you're a FEMA inspector. You're going to these houses, crack houses. You go up to the next floor of this house. You're inspecting. This baby's been screaming. You open the door. What do you see with the baby you've been hearing screaming?
I'm sorry, Alex. I kind of broke down after just thinking about this story.
Go ahead. It's okay.
I walked in.
Go ahead. It's okay. Be strong for the baby. Tell us what happened.
The baby was laying in a pile of trash, no diaper, no nothing, just laying there with an empty bottle. Dried snot and tears covered its face, and the flies and fleas were on top of it. And she stood over the baby and started stomping beside its head, screaming to shut up, MFer, shut up, at the top of her lungs to the point of where I couldn't even, my eardrums were hurting. This continued while I inspected the room for damages that were decades of dilapidation. And she's doing this right in front of me.
I understand. So, well, just like the TSA gropes this in front of us, it's all about out in the open. So how did this end?
I stepped out of the room, and right when I got there, the girl, or right when I was stepping out of the room, the girl that had left had showed back up. And they closed the door behind me, but it was still cracked. And I can hear the girl that I inspected the house for, and she, "Did you get it? Did you get it? Did you get it? Give me a hit." They started smoking rock right above that baby. And I said, I just said, "I need your signature, so I can leave." So she came out, signed it, and she actually exhaled the crack smoke in my face.
Oh, yeah. Listen, I could take and do a live feed to anywhere in East Austin and show people smoking crack on the side of the street and cops driving by. And I can take you to any city in the U.S. and show this. But then if I get pulled over, the cops are going to ask if I got drugs. And I'm like, do I look like I'm using the government's garbage? And cops that have pulled me over know that this happens. And they say, oh, what's your problem? What's my problem? The government ships it in. Don't give me your holier-than-thou garbage anymore. And it just makes me upset about the entire situation. And yes, I know about that. And I have absolutely not witnessed things like that, but I've read about it in the news where it's a baby eaten by rats, eaten by flies in a, or you'll see the stories of a 7-year-old that weighed 17, pounds and was like shriveled up and couldn't talk, and death was a mercy. And this is going on everywhere, and the CPS doesn't want them because they're already being killed. That's what they want. They want your healthy kid. If you're a good black Christian family with your kids all healthy and clean cut, you won't give your kids inoculations, they take them. We've covered those cases in Michigan. If you're a white homeschooling family, they're coming after you. They are a force of evil. I have been around them. Finish your story. Let me guess. You tried to call FEMA, tried to call others. What happened? I personally would have called 911. And see, that's why, I'm going to be honest, the one area I'm cowardly in is this area, because when I saw a cop choking a woman to make her sign a document to hand her kid over, because it was a blonde-haired, blue-eyed baby, and they even filed fake paperwork, I walked in the room and knew if I attacked the guy, I'd go to jail and wouldn't be able to keep fighting him, so I had to leave. But then that gave me nightmares, because at a primitive level, I should have physically defended the woman. I mean, it was all in a split second what I was going to do to the guy, but I didn't do it. I was ready to execute on him, but execute the defense of the woman. But I stood down, and doing that is very unhealthy for you. And so that's why I don't want to go show the crack houses. I don't want to go look at them. I know why people leave it all over there rotting, because it's hard to look at, but it's going on by design. So finishing your story, and then we'll get a hold of you and vet your story and then get it out for everybody. Finish the story.
All right. So I go outside, and, I have like a 10-minute cry there because I couldn't control myself in my vehicle. And I call up my FEMA office, and I tell them what's going on. There's a baby that's not even registered in the computer, that it doesn't exist. She probably had the baby in the house, and nobody even knows that it's in there except for me. So I call them up, and they said, no, you're not. We've told you before, this is not what you're there for. It's none of your business. And I said, well, I'm going to make it my business. If y'all aren't going to do anything, I'm going to call the police. I'm going to call CPS. And before I could even finish my sentence, she blurted out, if you call anybody, we will have you arrested for violating her civil rights. This is what I was told.
Yeah, and plus, just so everybody knows, that's a fraud. No matter what you're told, if a commission of a crime is happening and they tell you, oh, well, there's a privacy clause, all that goes out the window, even with doctor-client privilege. That's how doctors spy on you now for no reason, is because, well, they thought a commission of a crime was happening. They twist that. If you sign forms of confidentiality and you're working somewhere and they're making methamphetamine in the bathtub, you're allowed to go expose that. Go ahead. So,
being as scared as I was and wanting to keep making money.
I understand. You drove out of there. But you tried, and she tried to do the right thing later to get the story out. So how did this end?
Well, 3 days later, I went in and to another inspection, and the lady, when I walked up, she said, I bet you've seen some SH around here, hadn't you? And I said, oh, yeah. And she was an old black hippie lady. And the things that were coming out of her mouth were totally unexpected. And I did her inspection, and during the inspection, I told her about that, what had happened. And we were sitting down at her dining room table, filling out the last bit of paperwork, and she slid a tablet across the table and said, you're going to write down that name and address, because she had wanted it before. And I said, I can't do that. I just can't do that. And she got very angry with me, and she said, You don't think that God put you in that baby's life and then put you in mine so that we could save that baby? This is what I do, is I save those children. You're going to write that down, or you're not leaving here alive. She made me see the light, and I went into my computer, and I gave her every single address that I had been to that was a crack house that had children in it. You know, I did it third party, and I've been scared ever since for the past year that something's going to happen to me. And now that I'm on the air finally talking about it, I'm really scared.
Well, listen, don't be scared, brother, because every time I think about the New World Order killing me or even coming after my kids, none of them have a future if we don't stand up now. That's the thing about this evil. And everybody has got to go and expose these crack houses. Everybody has got to go and expose all this stuff. Drugs aren't fun. They're not cool. None of this is, and you did the right thing. The fact that you drove off crying, I've done the same thing watching the CPS do stuff because, you know, in your mind, you're thinking about how you got to defend this person. You know it's wrong. But, then there's the shell shock. What matters is you end up doing the right thing in the end. It's never too late. And the fact that you even cared, a lot of people would just, doing my job, you people are disgusting, whatever, blah, 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 and then leave and dehumanize those people. The fact that you cared about it. Rob Dew's got your number. We're going to end up getting in touch with you Friday as we're off tomorrow. I got a great rebroadcast lined up. And that's basically that. But God bless you, sir, and I appreciate your information, okay?
Yeah, I really want to say that those people that have FEMA knocking on the door, please do not fill that out. They'll be able to seize your property if you don't pay that back. You could end up getting $30,000, and a year down the road, they're going to want it back.
And again, that's the rest of the story. That's why they've got Google actuaries. They know where all the crack houses are in databases, and I actually read about this. They're sending money to them so they can take the property later.
Yeah.
It's all very, very cold-blooded. Well, listen, thank you so much, and I'm glad you have the strength to tell that story, John. We're going to be talking to you very soon. There goes John. I don't want that falling through the cracks, guys. Yeah, and that's exactly how it works. Then he's telling this other woman this story, and then she says, hey, God put you in that house for a reason, put you in this house for a reason. You're going to give me that information. Everybody's got to stop being so cowardly. You know what I mean? If something's evil, you've got to oppose it. It doesn't mean you've got to oppose everything all the time. But when your heart tells you got to oppose something, get past being cowardly. I mean, I think about what CPS does to kids. You know the most dangerous place for children? Even when you average in all the bad drug addict parents and the abusers and the alcoholics and everything, do you know in the government's own numbers, they don't publicize them a lot, but you can pull them up. On the average year, you are 5 to 7 times more likely to be sexually or physically abused in whose custody? Child Protective Services. And they just zombify the kids and put them on antipsychotics. I'm talking 2-year-olds. You cry for mommy, that's mental illness. And that's why anytime I have physical fear for myself, instantly, God just says, you know what you've seen with the children. And I can just see it all. And there's not, and it's not that I'm even embarrassed that my flesh is weak and that I would even have an inkling of fear, the inkling of fear. I have fear that I'm so weak. I have fear that I don't execute resistance against these people properly with all the gifts I've been given. Because let me tell you, the evil is going on 24/7. People, oh, there's always evil. It's increasing because there's an attitude now that, oh, that's just the way it is. You can't do anything. The CPS grabbing our kids outside of real courts, the TSA power grabbing, and people now resisting that. Think about it. We're able to now have people all over the country videotaping, and the TSA is trying to force people through scanners and ripping the clothes off little girls that turn out to be state representatives in Texas, and they're beating people up, and they're threatening people. Got big stacks of news on it today up at Infowars.com and PresidentBlatter.com. But it doesn't matter because more and more people are angry and upset, and they don't care. They're going to resist. I've seen 2 different national polls, 156, 152, are saying people are opting out of the scanners. It's happening everywhere. And it's the same thing. Little things grow. Big things have small beginnings. And we're not meant to be slaves. And there's always a struggle between good and evil. And I'm not offering anybody a utopia. Anybody that says they've got a utopia is a fraud. What I'm saying is that we need to pull away from evil and just swim as hard as we can away from it. Evil has a gravitational pull, and you want to get away from it. And it's always that eternal struggle of trying to get away from it. In our own lives, you know, changing things is an inside job. And, you know, shame on all these churches that go out and selectively find some poor people they claim they're going to take care of. Or, you know, shame on all the yuppies that walk up to me in grocery stores and say, what's wrong? Or say to my son, like I'm not even there, what's wrong with your eye? My son has a birthmark on the side of his head. And he says, it's my birthmark. You know, and I guarantee he's smarter than they are at 10 years old. And then I'll go, hey, you can talk to me. I'm here. Oh, this is the thing. You don't have any kids, do you? What are you, a social worker? Yeah, you are. And then you want to come in here and like a pervert talk to my kid. I'm not a pervert. How dare you? No, but like a pervert superseding. You don't have the courage or the will to have a kid. You don't have the courage to raise them up. You just got the courage to come in here and get in front of them like, oh, you don't like it. You don't like it now that I'm in your face. Why don't you go worry about the crack houses down the street? Why don't you go worry about the CPS abusing kids? Oh, but it's about the religion that you see, the liberals have their counterfeit of being good people and being involved in the community. They have their counterfeit where they run around all day, how they're good, and we're all terrorists, and the TSA has to check us all, and our pies and cakes can't fly with those, and we're going to have to pull your shirt up in public. I mean, I've sat there while a male TSA worker gets down there to grope me because I've got to fly out somewhere. They're saying either this or you don't fly. So I go, okay, I'll do a test. And the guy gets down on his knees and is licking his lips. I mean, he's, you know, and it's so alien to me, the idea of getting off on putting people in bad situations and making them do something. But see, there's a lot of people like to make people do things, ladies and gentlemen. That's what this is all about. And that for them is the thrill. Seeing that beautiful woman in the line that they could never get with the electric eyes and the beauty, you know what I'm talking about. And I'll be there with the guys that go, watch this, they're going to pull her out for groping. She's doing the scanner. Look, the sharks are coming in, and boy, they get that woman, and it is, I mean, oh my gosh. It's groping time.
As we saw in Katrina, and as we are watching now in New York and New Jersey, the federal government can't and won't help you in a crisis. FEMA ran out of water and MREs in days. Electricity is still off to over 1 million people. The Red Cross, who is quick to beg for money, is now slow to react. Don't put it off any longer. Get prepared today. The InfoWars shop is the largest distributor of ProPure water filter systems. And now, get 15% off your ProPure order with the promo code WATER15. While you're on InfoWarsShop.com, check out these other great preparedness items. The Aquapod kit lets you store up to 65 gallons of water in your bathtub. The Pocket Socket provides you with manual electricity for small electronics like your cell phone. The Life Straw is great for your bug-out bag. And check out our complete line of Interfood products for great tasting and nutritionally dense foods that have a great shelf life. If you are looking to secure your home in a crisis, you can order Strategic Relocations, the film, a great companion to the book Strategic Relocations 3rd edition, and The Secure Home by Joel Skousen. When the time to perform arrives, the time to prepare has already passed. Get prepared now, so if a crisis strikes your home, you and your family will be secure. Go to InfoWarsShop.com and don't forget the promo code WATER15.
To Sean Hannity's show, and they vetted me for 2 hours, checked me out, said that they were going to make a whole show around it and possibly bring me in to be on the TV show as well. The following week, they never called me back, and I called back into the show and talked to the producer. I had her private line, And she said that Sean had decided not to follow this story, that it just wasn't something that they were going to do.
All right, well, I'm probably going to have to put you on hold because Joseph Farah's got to leave here in about 4 minutes. But give us a brief encapsulation, and we'll come back to you after the break.
Okay. I got stationed in Philadelphia and was inspecting homes that were basically crack houses with decades of dilapidation. And I found children living in the squalor and, with drug deals and drug use going on right in front of them, and called it in. And then they told me to mind my own business. No. If you got a healthy baby, if the bow doesn't match their dress, the CPS will take them because they've got folks that want the kid. If the child is being eaten by rats, literally they won't help them if it's a good drug dealing operation to launder some money for the banks. Joseph Farah, any comments on what this caller's talking about?
No, I think he picked the wrong show to take his story to. I think he should have taken it to the Alex Jones show. You guys ought to exchange numbers. I want to hear more.
No, exactly. I'm going to put you on hold, sir. You can send us your stuff. We'll vet it, and then we'll get you on. But I'll come back and have you tell your story just because it matches from what I know. We just in the last segment took a call from John in Minnesota who was talking about FEMA going in. And I know they're checking floodplains and also architecture in cities in certain areas. He's saying he would just see people living in crack houses, children living like animals. I've probably seen the story he's talking about. You learn how to gauge how a caller sounds, and then plus the info they give you, you pretty much automatically know if they're for real or not. But I don't ever go off my gut, even though my gut's never wrong. It's like, okay, the gut says the guy's telling the truth, plus you've got info to back it up. Now, I've seen this with the foster parents. Not all of them. There's some good Christian families out there, but predominantly the warehousers of kids. I have seen it with the warehousing homes. They're all state certified, folks, and you can kill kids in these things, and they don't lose their licenses. I've seen cases where you've got to have 3 kids die in a small home in a year. There was one in Oklahoma, a case, and they had the CPS director go, "Children will die. That's just the way it is." That was the headline on the article. Children will die. Because in 1 week, 2 had died, then 1 had died the month before. They were letting, like, 2-year-olds swim alone at the CPS home and had a pool in the back. It was a taken-over old hotel. The point is, where do you think the pedophiles go? Where do you think the abusers go? Where do you think they go to be in the government envelope where they're the authority, so they're above reproach and they wouldn't do anything wrong? Folks, that's, in history, the most dangerous thing is the government. So the caller, I don't know what his story is yet. I only heard about a minute of it because we had to go to break. He brought up how he went to the media, tried to get this out. They wouldn't cut. Right now, let's go back to your calls. John in Minnesota, quick question or comment for Joseph Farah.
Yes, I was calling in to tell a little story, and also how the FEMA camps, how they plan to fill them. I was a FEMA inspector, still listed as one, and after what I saw last year and what I was threatened with, I decided not to go out for them anymore. I called this in back in March or April. I called in to
send me your information. We'll have you on. But, you know, so many times we have whistleblowers on and later they go, "Hey, can you take that down? They're coming after me." And so I just also want to tell people something. The Eye of Sauron is on this show. The Eye of the New World Order is fully aware of what we're doing. And I say, good, put me on your list, come after me. Because I know how evil you are. And letting this type of evil come in is what is hurting the little children. The CPS was set up 100 years ago, roughly. We were going to the caller, as race eugenics courts or race hygiene courts. You may have heard of that, but only from the Nazis. That's because the media will talk about that. The Nazis got it from the United States and England. England developed it. The U.S. perfected it. The Germans blew its good name. Had a Freudian slip, its bad name, but they gave it its bad name because it deserves one. I was about to say it's blew its bad name, but I couldn't say that. I said good. Point is, they were pushing it as a great thing until Hitler gave it a bad name because it deserved one. And